Khuddaka Nikaya, the Minor Discourses, the Theragāthā, verses of the Arahant Bhikkhus, Catukkanipāta, Book of Four Verses. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Verse 4.1 Nāgasamāla Thera. Covered up in all kinds of jewelry, adorned with the finest of clothing, with lovely flower garlands, and anointed by the most expensive of sandalwood. There, in the middle of the street, the woman kept dancing, charming the crowds of people all gathered to watch her there in amazement, as she danced to the tune of the 5 musical accompaniments. I had entered the city looking for alms, when, in passing, I saw her from the corner of my eye, all covered up in jewelry and adorned with the finest of clothing, the perfect trap, the perfect setup, all ready to capture and keep one a doomed slave within the clutches of death. But, placing my attention on the very origin of contact of what was taking place in front of me, I saw clearly the terrifying danger to which it directly leads, and suddenly immediate disenchantment arose in me towards all that I was witnessing. Thus, my heart was fully released as I witnessed the supreme purity of the Dhamma, and the 3 knowledges were now all attained, as I completed the task by fulfilling the Buddha's dispensation. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Nāgasamāla. Verse 4.2 Bhagu Thera. Trying to overcome my bothersome drowsiness, I stepped outside my hut with the intention of doing some walking meditation as an exercise to invigorate the body. But instead, I saw myself slip and fall to the ground while climbing those stairs. Rubbing and quickly massaging my limbs, I dusted myself off and got myself back on my feet, and with sharply serene alertness, I started mindfully walking upon the path, fully aware of each step I took. Thus, placing my attention on the very origin of contact of what was taking place in front of me, I saw clearly the terrifying danger to which it directly leads, and suddenly, immediately disenchantment arose in me towards all that I was witnessing. Thus, my heart was fully released as I witnessed the supreme purity of the Dhamma, and the 3 knowledges were now all obtained, as I completed the task and fulfilled the teachings of the Buddha. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Bhagu. Verse 4.3 Sabhiya Thera. While others who lack understanding neither consider nor appreciate the fact that we're here but for a little bit of time. But those with understanding, who do consider and appreciate this truth, put quarreling and arguing to rest. And whereas those lacking understanding behave as if they're somehow immune to death, the ones who truly understand the Dhamma are those who stand out as the only healthy ones among the multitudes of the sick. And when the effort is utterly lacking and lax, there cannot be any good rewards, while shamelessly behaving in sneaky and blamable ways, contrary to living the holy life. So, anyone living and behaving like that, with lack of respect and true reverence for those genuinely living the holy life, will remain as far and cut off from knowing or experiencing the true Dhamma as the earth is from the vastness of the sky. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Sabhiya. Verse 4.4. Nandaka Thera, his second. Ah, you, despicable frame of a body! Everywhere I look, all I get is your horrid stench, endlessly oozing out through your 9 doors. You never stop serving Mara with your streams of bad-smelling fluids that never seem to run out or cease, always causing me trouble, always complaining and wanting attention. You shouldn't think so highly of this physical body, nor make a big deal out of it. Don't make fun of or mock those who have crossed the flood and are now free. For even the highest of heavens, with their unimaginable pleasures and delights, could never arouse any interest or longing in them, let alone a mere human such as you. However, those idiots who still drool at the mouth, hanging out with equally stupid friends, with hearts that are lost in delusion and blinded by their passions, obediently continue to be aroused, hopelessly triggered by the charms of such a body, always ready to bite the bait that Mara keeps setting for them. But those who have indeed given up and are thus freed from lust, hatred, and delusion, letting them just fade away, releasing their hold on the heart. Thus, they are no longer aroused by this physical body, now seeing for what it really is. For such beings are truly freed, having released themselves from all shackles that bind. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Nandaka, his second. Verse 4.5. Jambuka Thera. For a total of 55 years, I kept covering myself in dirt and mud, eating only once every month, while plucking out the hairs on my head and beard. On one leg I kept standing, while never using any seats, couches, or cushions. Dry dung was my food whenever it was time for me to eat, nor ate food reserved for me. But engaging in such stupid actions, it was natural for me to end up in states of misery, finding myself being swept yet again in the flood. I reached for the Buddha as my refuge. Now, look at where taking of the refuge truly led me. Witness the excellence of the Dhamma. I've indeed attained to the 3 knowledges, and now fulfilled the teacher's instructions. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Jambuka. Verse 4.6. Senaka Thera. Oh, what a joyful opportunity it was for me to encounter the self-awakened Buddha on that faithful spring celebration day in Gaya. What a beautifully welcome surprise it was for me to chance upon the teacher elucidating the highest Dhamma. He was such a glorious sight to behold, the teacher of the masses, the guide who had already realized the very highest that could be achieved. Throughout the entire cosmos, with its devas mighty, he is indeed the matchless conqueror, to whom all gods bow in worship. The greatest of all Nagas, the highest among all who truly vanquished, the one with the brightest radiance that blasts away all the asavas, who, through the destruction of all the contaminants of the heart, stands as the teacher, fearing nothing and no one from any quarter. Oh, how foolish of me to have not seen all of this before, lost in my delusion, with a heart so corrupted with wrong beliefs and views. But I'm glad to say that it was truly the Blessed One himself who showed the path to me, and thus helped set me free from all those evil bonds that shackled me. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Senaka. Verse 4.7. Sambhūta Thera. The idiot, being hasty, keeps rushing as he speedily moves about, when in fact it's time for him to take his time and walk slowly, carefully. But it is in not distinguishing between these two that soon his irrational thinking takes him further into pain and misery. Thus, the good he'd accumulated slowly starts fading away and perishes, just like the waning moon melts away and vanishes into the surrounding darkness. So too, disgrace and embarrassment will catch up to him sooner or later, as friends, one by one, start leaving him, as they too disappear. However, by walking carefully and slow, when it's not the time to be hasty nor to be brash, it is in distinguishing between these two that soon his rational thinking takes the wise one further into happiness and ease. Thus, the good he'd accumulated exponentially increases and does not perish, just like the waxing moon filling up the sky with its brilliance, making the surrounding darkness all disappear. So too, honor and respect will catch up to him sooner or later, as friends all find him a delight to call their beloved friend. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Sambhūta. Verse 4.8. Rāhula Thera. Having been blessed twice over, no wonder they call me Rāhula the Fortunate. One for being the son of the Buddha himself, while the other is for having attained to the truth of direct knowing, possessing the vision that penetrates into all things. because in me all the asavas have been cleared out, and no new re-becomings into future births exists anymore. I am now indeed an arahant, worthy of offerings, possessing the triple knowledges, having seen the deathless in this very life. While others continue their existence, blinded by their lust for sensual pleasures and trapped in its net, drowning in their craving and constant thirst. Obedient slaves, shackled and fallen prey to Mara, the evil one, and his many tricks. They exist, but while inescapably struggling like fish, caught in a funnel net of a stream. But I, on the other hand, threw away the fisherman's hook for sensual pleasures, cutting all access points for Mara to approach, let alone to trap or tie me up with his bonds, as I pulled out the thirst and craving for more from its very roots, and thus attained to coolness, as I now finally enjoy the peace that is Nibbana Supreme. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Rāhula. Verse 4.9 Candana Thera. Bedecked in gold and silver, accompanied by a troop of her maids, there I saw my previous wife approaching from a distance, carrying my son over her hip. Seeing her getting closer and closer to me, this mother of my own child, all covered up in her makeup and jewelry, a well laid out trap, a snare of death was all that I saw, with me as its victim to be. But right at that moment, I placed my firm attention properly at the root, and suddenly it all became clear. The very danger in what I was witnessing, as disgust arose in me towards the entire world, and disenchantment spread throughout. It was then that the heart was finally released. The excellent Dhamma was directly seen, and the three knowledges I did attain, and thus completed is my training in the Buddha's dispensation. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Candana. Verse 4.10 Dhammika Thera. The Dhamma protects those who live by it and with dedication. So long as you're truthful to its practice, the Dhamma keeps bringing you much happiness. This is what you'll gain from properly engaging in it, which is why those who live by the Dhamma never go to the woefully miserable realms. Therefore, the Dhamma and all others pretending to be Dhamma can never lead to the same outcomes. For whatever is adhamma leads one to the doom of the hellish realms, whereas the Dhamma takes you to places of happiness and ease. So, it's always beneficial for you to muster up the desire for the Dhamma, rejoicing in the fact that you have access to it, through the abundant kindness of the Sugata, your teacher, the such-like one, because by firmly being anchored in the very Dhamma taught by the best of the holy ones, the disciples fearlessly march on, courageously following his mighty example, the best refuge. Popped and pulled out is the root of this cancerous lump, finally. The snare of craving and wanting more is now totally destroyed. Samsara's renewed cycles of existences is now terminated, and there's nothing more left to do. And the hearts become like the bright full moon sailing through the stainless sky of the night. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Dhammika. Verse 4.11 Sappaka Thera. Whenever I see the white crane becoming startled by the dark thunderstorms moving in, stretching out its snowy white wings, it flies off looking for a safe shelter to hide under. Realizing where I am, suddenly I'm thrilled to find myself already living in solitude by the side of the roaring cascades of the river Ajakarani. Whenever I see the white crane getting scared by the dark thunder clouds moving in, spreading its pure white wings, it scurries looking for a refuge in a cave but can't find one. Yet, on realizing where I am, suddenly I find myself delighted, living already in my safe refuge by the side of the roaring cascades of the river Ajakarani. For how could anyone not enjoy nor delight in seeing the fragrant rose apple trees strewn about on both sides of the banks of the river, right there, behind the cave where I live? Then, on finding some peace from being chased around by snakes, their mortal foes, the jubilant frogs keep croaking in celebration as they cheer. Today is not the day for us to hide or keep away from the cascading waters. For finally, the waters of the river Ajakarani are safe for us to enjoy. Indeed, it truly is lovely, pleasant, and a delight to be here in the secure refuge it provides. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Sappaka. Verse 4.12 Mudita Thera. In an attempt to save my life, I went forth, and soon, right after my ordination, I found myself gaining such confidence and faith in my heart that I applied myself with strong energy while pressing on relentlessly. If necessary, let this body fall apart and break down completely. I don't care if this pile of flesh be wasted away, and my legs just collapse or break off at the knees. Still, I won't go eating or drinking, neither will I leave my kuti, nor will I go on sleeping on my side, until that poisonous arrow of craving has not yet been pulled out of my heart. Living with such a determined resolution, behold the energy and vigor pulsating through me. For now the three knowledges are mine at last, and the dispensation of the Buddha is now truly fulfilled in me. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Mudita. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.